G'day everyone and welcome to another episode of Two Cousins One Chat. I'm Ben, one half of the TCOC duo coming to you from Adelaide, South Australia.
And I'm Christy, the other half coming to you from a very cold Melbourne, Victoria. G'day everyone, it's great to have you with us for another episode. And honestly, we have no time to mess around today because this episode is a very special one and it's my annual favourite. Because waiting in the green room, we have a knight of the French Republic ready to chat all things cycling with us. So over to you, Ben.
Yes, for the past few years, we've been fortunate to welcome one of Australian cycling's most respected voices to our annual Tour de France special. Mike Tomalaris has been a journalist, or is a journalist, broadcaster, storyteller for more than 30 years and played a pivotal role in bringing the world's biggest cycling race into Australian homes. From his first Tour de France in 1996 and through becoming the face of SBS cycling coverage, Mike helped generations of Australians fall in love with the sport, I beg your pardon. He continues to share his passion for cycling, including his fundraising work for a number of charities.
That's right, Ben. So let's not keep him waiting. It's our absolute pleasure to welcome Mike Tomalaris back to Two Cousins One Chat.
G'day, Mike.
G'day, Christy. G'day, Ben. You never keep me waiting, Christy. With an intro like that, Ben, I could just sit here and listen to myself and listen to you about myself over and over.
Oh, good.
We had to cut it short too a bit because I love to go on and on and on and pump it right up. So It's really lovely to have you with us, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, and I've really enjoyed being on your podcast over the last few years. And even though I'm not involved with the multicultural national broadcaster, as I was for 27 years at the Tour de France, 34 years with SBS, I still love watching the world's greatest reality television drama series every July. That is the Tour de France. Forget about maths, forget about the block, forget about my kitchen rules. The real reality TV is the Tour de France. I love watching it. I love what I've done in terms of my 27 years career. I've left a bit of a legacy, and it's good to see that it's continuing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it's definitely our annual tradition, Mike, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, stuck with us now.
Let me tell you where I am this weekend. I'm in southern Queensland, where it's not as cold as where you might be, Christy. Although it does get quite cool here. I'm in a little town called Onley. Now, you might be thinking, where is Onley? Just picture a map of Queensland. It's probably about 3.5 hours northwest of Brisbane. And I'm here in the South Burnett region, and I'm here hosting a gravel and flannel event. Gravel as in gravel bike riding, flannel as in flannel shirts. And you might think that's a bit of a weird name. It is weird, it's quirky, and we're having a lot of fun. I'm here with like-minded people who love riding bikes, where you love drinking fine wine, eating good food, and just telling stories and having a lot of fun. And that's where I'm at these days. People often ask me, what are you doing these days, Tomo? And I say to them, look, I'm enjoying a holiday lifestyle. I travel around this beautiful country of ours on a regular basis. You may have seen my social media. And I'm in my SUV, my RAV4. I've got the bikes in the back or on top of the roof. And I go to different locations, riding rail trails, gravel roads, bitumen roads, participating in as many events as possible, continuing the advocacy that I started years ago, and reminding people that to ride a bike just does so much in terms of benefiting your mind, your body, and your soul. It's a cleanser. It's a cleanser in every way, physically and mentally. So that's what I'm doing these days. And you said earlier off air, Ben, that I look pretty good for my 104 years of age. Well, it's the bike that makes me feel and look young. So thanks for the compliment.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm thinking back. We always get off track, I know, and I don't want to get into the World Cup because I know that your first love was the World Game, and right now the World Cup's on, and it's funny how you got thrown this gig of cycling so long ago, and now it's just such a big part of your life, which is just unreal. I love that.
Yeah, well, Ben, let me just remind some of the people listening. I did start my sports journalism career covering the World Game, and I got a job through Les Murray, the late and great Les Murray, and I did attend 2 World Cup tournaments in the 1990s. USA 94,
Oh, wow.
and France 1998. And I played the game as a kid from the age of 6 to 42. Not so much a kid later on in life, but I played for many, many years. And look, this World Cup tournament, people are knocking it. They're saying 48 teams is too much. It's gone over the top. They're greedy. They're money hungry. FIFA, I'm talking about. Well, you know what? This has been the best World Cup that I've ever experienced. And I've been watching the tournament since 1974 with my dad when we were sitting watching the Socceroos, the inaugural Socceroos, the original Socceroos on black and white television when they played in West Germany. This has been the best World Cup ever. 48 teams, bring it on for 2030 and beyond. It's been a terrific tournament. And the Socceroos, well, you know, whenever the Socceroos play, it's not just sport. It's a national event. It's good to see so many people getting up in ungodly times of the day to watch our national team. And you know what I've noticed also? Everybody is an expert on a sport they don't traditionally watch.
Totally.
I'm just trying to still figure out the offside rules. So I do struggle with some of the rules, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how they go overnight because they will be playing
3:30
early tomorrow morning. Is that right? Yeah. That's an early start. So you've told us all about where you are. We love watching where you are on the bike, Mike, and it's great to see that you're back supporting the gravel and flannel event once again. Because we spoke to you last year, and I think you were in your car, and we were recording our Tour de France episode last year when you were up there. So it's great to see you back there again. I'm sure they love it as well.
Just further to that, Christy, there are so many layers to riding a bike. You can be a speedster if you want to, a racer, but you can also be a person that is into e-bikes. And e-bikes have been a revelation for those more mature people who may have thought that their bike riding days were well past. Well, the introduction of the electric bike has extended their love for the two-wheel machine. And you've got track cycling, you've got cyclocross. You've got little kids on their balance bikes, 3-year-olds going at 100 miles an hour through the shopping centres of Australia. It's for everybody, whether you're 3 or 103. So that's what cycling does, bike riding does. It's terrific.
Absolutely.
It's the ultimate freedom machine.
Absolutely.
Best invention ever made, hands down for me. Absolutely. Are we ready to chat tour, guys?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. So let's start with some of the biggest results so far of the season. Jonas won the Giro d'Italia, and he now heads to the Tour looking to complete one of cycling's toughest achievements, the Giro-Tour double. It's such an impressive victory. And do you reckon that now makes him favourite for the Tour, or do you still think Tadej remains the man to beat? What do you guys reckon?
Look, I really don't think that Jonas will come close to Tadej Pogačar. He's at a stage in his career where he is just trying to tick off some bucket list races. He's won the Tour twice, the Tour de France twice, and for him to participate at the Giro d'Italia, well, knowing full well that Tadej wasn't going to be there, he had his best chance of winning that event, that 3-week Grand Tour for the very first time. So, having said that, I really believe he'll be there when the whips are cracking, but he won't be there winning or pushing for a yellow jersey after 3 weeks. I think the Giro is too close to the Tour. And like I said, he's won his Tour de France for this year. It's called the Giro. He doesn't have to win the Tour de France again, and he probably won't because Pogačar is there. And Pogačar is after a slice of history. He's won 4 tours. He wants to win a 5th tour and join the likes of Miguel Indurain, Jacques Anquetil, Eddie Merckx, and those guys. He wants to join the legends of the sport, and there's no reason to suggest that he won't come back in 12 months' time and become an outright champion by winning 6. He can do it. If anybody can do it, he can do it. He's got a new hairstyle. He's got a new rinse through his hair. He can do anything he wants.
And whether you ask you about that.
Whether you like his new look or not, doesn't matter. He can do anything he wants.
He can. Yeah, he's at that stage. And I tend to agree. I mean, I watched the Giro, and I got to say, I don't think I've ever seen a team work together so well Visma works so well. And I love Victor Campenaerts being in the Visma team. I think he's actually brought them together, and he's got such a team spirit. I think that really helped Jonas get across the line. And I was saying to Christy earlier, though, as good as Jonas is, and he's looking really fit, I just think Tadej always has another level that he can go to. He's always got more he can give. You know, when he breaks away in those hill climbs, and you're like, where? It's like he's been resting. He just absolutely fires off. So I think.
And Ben, I'll just say this: Jonas's season in the past has revolved around one big race, and that was the Tour de France. This year, his big ticket item was around one big race. It's the Giro.
Yeah.
But Tadej, he's a different beast on two wheels. He can jump on a bike, whether it's a one-day event, a 10-day event, a 3-week event. He's won almost everything there is to win on the World Tour. The only races that he hasn't won, and probably will never win, one race in particular, is the Tour Down Under. Unfortunately. Why? It's too early in the season. And if he does come to South Australia and win, or try to win that particular race, it'll throw his entire program for the rest of the year. Maybe he will come to South Australia once he's won 6 tours. And and the other event that he hasn't won is Paris-Roubaix. He's come second a couple of times, and I think that is itching him as well. That is really, it's an event he really wants to win. He's won everything else.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
we never know.
Paris-Roubaix.
The Paris-Roubaix.
Speaking over you, Ben. I'm so excited.
I'm used to it, Mike. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's an ongoing issue. Well, we talk about the Vingegaard-Pogačar rivalry, but maybe this year it won't be so much about those two. It's going to be Pogačar's the guy to beat, and who else is going to get on the podium. There's other jerseys to be won, the sprint jersey and the climb jersey. They're always interesting to watch as well. So we think about this being, I guess it is one of the great cycling rivalries anyway, though, isn't it? I mean, with what's happened over the past few years, you'd still have to say that it's one of the great rivalries of professional cycling.
Oh, absolutely. Pogačar and Vingegaard have given us incredible entertainment over the last few years. And I really do feel for riders like Remco Evenepoel, Mathieu van der Poel, and even Wout van Aert. They're living, although they have won their own races respectively, World Championships, Spring Classics, they haven't been in a position to win the biggest race of them all. That is the Tour de France. Why? Because they're up against 2 superstars. So as far as I'm concerned, I feel sorry for those other names that I've mentioned. I believe that they're living in the wrong era. If they were in any other era, they would probably have yellow jerseys in their cabinets as a result of winning the Tour de France. But that's not the case in this era, which has been dominated by Poggi and Jonas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much fun to watch, isn't it? And one of our absolute faves is Wout van Aert. And winning Paris-Roubaix this year was something that most riders can only dream about. And the race in the velodrome at the end was just fantastic. But the big disappointment is that he's out of the Tour de France this year, which is such a complete bummer. But hopefully we'll see him back for the Vuelta later in the season.
I'm sure that'll be the case. He's got an elbow injury. Is that right, Christy?
Yeah, I think he dislocated his elbow, Yeah.
Well, look, he'll be very sorely missed. He's a wonderful human being. I've had the opportunity in the past when he was coming through to talk to him. And when he came to Wollongong for the World Championships, UCI World Champs in 2022, the Belgian team were staying in the Headland Hotel at Austinmere on the south coast, not far from Wollongong, and they loved it. It's very spectacular on the Tasman Sea there. And I noticed after the race, which was won by Evenepoel that particular year, Wout went to Sydney, joined his young family, and there were some great pictures of him just enjoying cruises on Sydney Harbour, with the Opera House in the background and the Harbour Bridge and all that sort of stuff. And I've had the opportunity to meet him. He's a wonderful human being, off the bike as well as on the bike. So he'll be sorely missed.
Yeah, he's so good to watch in any stage. He's always a bit of a wild card in terms of what he can do. He can always surprise you. Not sure if you've had a chance to absorb all of the stages yet, Mike. I certainly haven't. So I won't put you on the spot with particular stages, but what are the kind of stages that you usually love to watch? There's always the standards that are in there with the sprints and the Alpe d'Huez, and they go into the Alps. What's the sort of stages that you like to watch?
Well, it's interesting. They're starting with a team time trial through the
Mm.
streets of Barcelona. They're
Hmm.
staying in the Catalonia region for a couple of days. And I'm really happy to see that the race hits the Pyrenees after stage 3. And that tells me there'll be some time gaps in the first week of the
Okay.
Tour. The race won't be decided, obviously, but we will see some time gaps. And I remember a couple of years ago, where did they start? That's right, in Florence. That was 2 years ago.
Mm.
And the race was on from the get-go because they had to get back to France. And by doing that, you've got to climb over the Alps.
Yeah.
And there were mountain stages virtually from stage 1
Yes.
before
Yes.
before the race leveled out and the sprinters had their time. This reminds me of that particular race from 2 years ago. An early mountain stage,
Mm.
which will separate the men from the boys.
Mm.
And from there, they travel northeast through the Central Massif region, the Massif Central region, I should say. And then they head east towards the Alps. So it's going to be decided. Look, Christian Prudhomme, the race director, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing this race directing stuff since 2007, and he's going to keep us in suspense until the penultimate stage, that's for sure. But it'll be a tough race from the get-go, that's for sure.
And they're doing the Alpe d'Huez. There's 2 stages that include the Alpe d'Huez. So it's going, and there's a mountain stage before they do those 2 Alpe d'Huez stages. So it's going to be 3 days of mountain stages before the Champs-Élysées. So it's
I've
an
never
interesting sequence.
known for the Alpe d'Huez to be climbed over 2 separate days. So this is a first.
Mm.
You know, there was a time when to do Alpe d'Huez once brought fear into the legs of those riders who had survived 3 weeks of racing, but to do it twice, they are entering new ground, and it really will make a difference. You know what? I'm starting to think, talking to you two, that Christian Prudhomme, the race director, is trying every trick in the book to stop Pogačar from winning. And if you can throw in 2 separate stages of an Alpe d'Huez climb, maybe Prudhomme thinks this might do it to make the race more interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's like interesting.
He's throwing everything at him to see what happens.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
He'd probably brain everyone once again.
You could run him over with a bulldozer. He'd still get up and win.
Yes. I know. He seems to be indestructible. Yeah.
He's unreal. We've been talking about some of the riders to watch, but it's really exciting, Mike, to see a brand new generation of young riders coming through, and that's such as Paul Seixas, Del Toro, Ayuso, Florian Lipowitz, and of course Oscar Onley, the young Scottish rider. Yeah. So it's great to see those. I'm really interested to see how they go in this year's Tour de France. What about you?
Well, it reminds me of when Pogačar came onto the scene, 2019. Now, here's a little bit of trivia for you. Did you know that Pogačar's first race as a professional was in 2019? Now, do you know which race that was?
I don't.
It was the Tour Down Under.
Really?
He has appeared at the Tour Down Under. It's a great trivia question, Ben. And the reason why he was overlooked was because it was his first race.
Wow.
First professional race. We knew nothing about him. We knew nothing about the legend that he's become. But you go back to the record books, look at the Tour de France lineup of 2019. He didn't do much that year either. He may have finished in the top 10, but I'm not sure. Wow. But he was a nobody. And he's a somebody now. But back to your original question, Christy.
Yeah.
These young names that you mentioned reminds me of the era that Pogačar entered some 6 or 7 years ago with Evenepoel and Vingegaard and Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel and these guys. They're entering a new era now. And Paul Seixas, I think that's the way you pronounce it. He only started his professional career at the start of last year, 2025. And they're all the so-called experts are saying he is going to be on the podium. Now,
oh, wow.
That really worries me. the French, he's French. The French have been banging on about the next big thing since Bernard Hinault won the Tour de France in 1985. They've been waiting for 41 years. And that puts a hell of a lot of pressure on these guys. Julian Alaphilippe was the last one. And he made an impact, sure, but he'll never win the Tour de France. And he's getting long in the tooth now, with all due respect to him. And look, I hate the way the French talk up these guys. Seixas is only 19 years of age. Sure, he's got talent. And I hope he does knock on the door of the podium. And I hope he does challenge Pogačar. The French will have something to scream about, to cheer about. But to put so much pressure on these guys, it's happened. I've seen it. The media is ruthless in France, and they hate it. The French media, and perhaps the French public, who are very passionate about cycling, hate the fact that they haven't had a French winner since 85. The Brits dominated in the 2010s. The Australians dominated through Cadel Evans. The English-speaking riders from English-speaking countries dominated. Lance Armstrong, he didn't win. He crossed the line first 7 times before being stripped. Another English-speaking rider. And they hate the fact that these foreigners are invading their race. And as a result, they haven't been able to win. But you know what? It tells me, no, they're not invading your race, monsieur and madame. It tells me that the Tour de France is a global event now. It's international. It's a bit like tennis. You may not be old enough to remember, back in the early days of world tennis, the players dominating the tennis scene were basically from Australia, from Great Britain, and from the United States. Now, players at Wimbledon, the French Open, US Open and the Australian Open, they can't get past the 3rd or 4th round from those countries.
No.
Because tennis has become international. It's the same with the Tour de France. It's a global event. And what's made it global, I believe, is television. Before 1992, when SBS and other international networks took the highlights coverage, the Tour de France was predominantly being shown on television in Europe and France predominantly. But since it was shown on free-to-air TV in the English-speaking countries or the non-European countries, the wave started. And that's when the Aussies started, with the likes of Stuart O'Grady, Robbie McEwen, Brad McGee, Henk Vogels, Simon Gerrans, Cadel Evans, and the list goes on, Rowan Dennis, you know. And it's the same with the Americans and the other English-speaking countries. It's an international event. And I wouldn't be surprised if the French have to wait another 40 years before one of their own win a race.
Yeah, they might. They might have to. Hey, on the Florian Lipowitz thing, him and Remco Evenepoel are joint GC leaders for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe this year. I've never seen that before. So,
yeah. No, it has happened. It does happen.
Oh, okay. It's not uncommon. All right.
It's not uncommon. They're just hedging their bets.
Yeah, right.
Just in case. So who were they again? Lipowitz, who came 3rd overall last year.
Yeah, and Remco, obviously. Yeah.
Well, look, that kind of doesn't surprise me that they've got 2 leaders, just in case one falls over.
Yeah.
And I reckon, I might be wrong, but Remco is yet to prove himself over a 3-week bike race. He starts off very well, and he'll be there in the first week, but he tends to fade away during week 2 and particularly week 3 in a Grand Tour. And to cover their bases, I'm thinking that Red Bull are nominating 2 riders just in case Remco falls over. And what better way than to have Lipowitz as a rider to back him up, given that he finished 3rd overall behind the 2 legends of Pogačar and Vingegaard last year.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my thinking. I don't know. I might be wrong, but that's my thinking.
Yeah.
Van der Poel and Remco, I can always pick them in the bunch. You know, there's something about Mathieu Van der Poel that I can always pick him in the bunch. You know, it's his shape or his style, or the way he isn't the same with Wout. You know, when you watch the tour and it's like, oh, yeah, I can see them all. But yeah, it's really distinctive.
Like
Yeah.
Campanarts is like that because he's just got
Always,
such a
yeah.
distinctive style. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, who's that other guy? Healy. He rides with his head a bit on the side. Ben
Yeah.
Healy.
Yeah.
A bit like Chris Froome. Remember Chris Froome used to do that? Right like
Yeah,
that?
yeah. And he would never get out of the saddle except for when he had to run up the hill.
Yeah.
Look,
Mine was
speaking of Chris Froome, without wanting to criticise Froome, who won 4 tours, he was very defensive, and I didn't like his riding style. A wonderful human being, a beautiful man, but he bored me. He bored me as a spectator. But now the Tour de France and the Giro and the Vuelta, these 3-week races, almost every stage is exciting.
Oh, yeah.
They race
Yeah.
as if their lives depend on it.
Yeah.
They don't. What's the word? Suffocate the ride, suffocate the race like Chris Froome did back in the day. These guys race to win, and you know,
That's a
Pogačar
great
might be.
one.
Yeah, Pogačar might be a multi-millionaire, and I might be naive in saying that he doesn't really race for the money. He races because he just loves jumping on his bike and being competitive. The money, the multi-millions of dollars that he's earned, it's just a wonderful little bonus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's got a Ferrari or a or a Maserati or something, but he doesn't care.
Yeah.
I don't believe it. I've met him a couple of times, and he's just so humble.
Yeah.
That's the impression I get. When you compare him to, say, those from the past who were involved in the drugs era, they were basically in it because it was a business and they saw it as a way to make money. Pogačar, Vingegaard, and these guys, they're in it to make money, to make a living, but because they still believe they're young at heart and they're racing perhaps in a club scene like they might have been 10 or 15 years ago when they were starting out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's the average pace has picked up and there's early breakaways and all those sorts of things that do make the race very exciting. And they're taking more risks, which means more crashes, but it is so exciting to watch. Yeah.
I just thought of something, Ben. You were saying before about Vingegaard, and we agree that perhaps he's done his Tour de France and that was the Giro. From the interviews that I've seen Vingegaard in the lead up to this year's Tour de France, the body language also tells me, because he's praising Podgy so much. And in past years, he never used to do that. He used to go in there with all guns blazing. But I'm not saying that he's resigned to finishing second or not winning, but something tells me in the answers to his questions in the lead up to this year's Tour that he's not going into this race as confidently as he has in the past.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of psychological warfare happening there.
Maybe.
Who knows? All right, guys, we're going to wrap up here. This interview is going way too fast. We have to remember straight after the men's race, there's a Tour de France Femme, and that's where the women take the stage. Demi Vollering won the Giro d'Italia, and she's just dominating. Will you be tuning in, Mike, to watch the ladies' race?
Oh, of course. You know, I in 2022, for bike style tours, I was over at the Tour de Femme, and I've got to say it is a fantastic event, and it's jumped come on in leaps and bounds in the ensuing years. But what makes it a special race is that the women are easily accessible. If you're a spectator or if you're a fan, you can just rock up to them. They'll talk to you. With the men's Tour de France, it's almost impossible to get anywhere near any of the bike riders. It's a different scenario at the Tour Down Under, where it's January, the sun's out, it's summer, and the pressure's not as intense as in July. But with the women, it's such a different atmosphere, and to think that you can come up to them by asking Amanda Spratt or Tiffany Cromwell or Demi Vollering, photo please. 9 times out of 10 they say not a problem at all.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, they're more relaxed, which is nice. And there's possibly less pressure on them as well in a lot of ways. You know, the media and everything is so swarms around the men's race, and with the women's, it's growing absolutely. But so maybe the whole atmosphere is a little more a bit more chilled for them, which is great.
And Ben, isn't it great that the Tour Down Under next year has been reduced, I think, to 8 or 9 days?
Yeah.
With the women's event for the first time will run not concurrently, but on the same day as the men's race. So when the women, I would imagine the women will start first, perhaps at 9 a.m. They'll race the course, and they'll be followed with an 11:30 start by the men. The women would have finished by the time the men get there, obviously, but it's on the same course, and it allows the spectators, the people who come from all over Australia and different parts of the world, to enjoy 2 races at the one time. And economically, it's much better, isn't it, for us spectators? We don't have to stay for 12 days. We can stay for 8 days, blow all our money, give it to the South Australia economy,
Yes,
and then go home happy.
Please do it. Yeah, Stuart O'Grady's a smart man. I think it's not just him. It's the women's race director as well. I can't remember her name, but yeah,
Carly
I think
Taylor.
and it's brilliant. I think it's an inspired idea, and it's just put them on equal playing, absolutely. And from a spectator perspective, it's brilliant. Yeah. So, Mike, once again, it's been fabulous to speak to you again. Enjoy your evening up there. You're probably getting a lot more sunshine this weekend than we will, but it's always a pleasure to speak to you. Enjoy the tour, vive la tour, and we will speak to you again very, very soon.
Will do. Thank you, Ben, and thank you too, Christy. Thank you for your interest in what is reality TV, otherwise known as the Tour de France.
Jeez.